Hello, everyone. My name is Isabel, and unfortunately, our second group member, Don Veem, is not here due to circumstances.
Hello, everyone. My name is Bethany, and the topic that a group will be focusing on is sports psychology. But more specifically, the subsets that I will be honing on in is the overall experience that is needed in order for you to acquire a job within this field of kinesiology, along with the job responsibilities and settings that coincide with being a sports psychologist. First off, let's start talking about the educational background or experience that is needed. In terms of the educational background and experience, it is mainly, if not all, dependent on where you want to apply. Due to the fact that some jobs require the minimum of a master's degree, while others require a doctorate, PhD to be specific. Degrees are one thing, but if you want to boost your resume, while other jobs do have this as a requirement, there are multiple things that you can do. Working under some sort of internship, having some prior experience in this field, whether that be shadowing or volunteering, among other things, would not only be helpful in terms of securing your future, but shows employers that you are really passionate about the craft that you want to master. And in this case, it's sports psychology. The ultimate goal would be acquiring the highest level of education that your college or establishment can possibly provide, while having some real-life experience as a way to almost ensure multiple amounts of success and to utilize the knowledge that you have obtained on a daily basis. When this is all said and done, a license in order to perform your practice is required and can be offered by multiple schools, including CSU, which is mentioned later in this presentation. And this process that I am talking about typically consists of passing an exam. As you can see from the educational requirements, there's some gray area when it comes to what is needed, and the same can be said for the job settings in terms of the overall environment. Depending on where you acquire a position can provide several different settings. For example, college students can have different or even the same set of anxiety issues compared to professional athletes. Additionally, your coworkers, the college or team you work for, the patients that you encounter, the place that your office is in, and plenty more can all have an effect on the overall feel in terms of setting that you provide from a psychologist to patient standpoint, or on the other hand, a employer to psychologist standpoint. If you are looking for a place that can not only test every aspect of your ideals, thoughts, and viewpoints about what it means to be an athlete, and the mental challenges that come along with it, while still having a thrilling result of the work you put in, then sports psychology can provide that. Plus, in many instances, it provides more group-oriented efforts. And as many of us know, teamwork makes the dream work. Just as every job comes with responsibilities, so does a sports psychologist. Responsibilities are what allows you to understand just how important your job really is and the impact that you can make in your patients' lives. As someone who has played sports before, I know how important it is to have someone to just disclose your feelings with and not feel any judgment being thrown at you. When doing some research, I found that the responsibilities are nothing of a short list. First responsibility that I want to mention would be to assess the patient's skill level within their sport or sports as a way to give the psychologist a clear picture of what is going on in the athlete's mind, so that they can provide much more useful tools in the future. Secondly, bringing to surface any number of problems catered towards the mind, including stress, misusing certain substances, and many more that can hinder an athlete's performance. Continuing on with this topic, the next responsibility would be implementing multiple methods and tools that can not only help boost performance, but improve their daily living. Next, relating to the patient can be used multiple ways, including having played the sport that they are currently competing in, so you as a psychologist can relate on some level. If they are working through an injury, for example, then as a psychologist, you know how it can affect an individual mentally and physically. Moving to the next responsibility, suggesting more creative outlets as a way to help release the patient's emotions. For example, writing their feelings down in a journal of some sort can prove to be beneficial. Lastly, providing useful advice to help the patient have a work-life balance so that they can reach their desired end goals in terms of their sport or sports.
Okay, so I will be talking about the cost and how to prepare yourself to become a sports psychologist as a student, as well as skills to work towards. So the cost of graduate schools. How much is the cost for for all the schooling that goes into building your knowledge as a future sports psychologist? As Bethany mentioned, there are various pathways depending on your desired job. For an example, you can get a doctorate in philosophy if you want to focus on scholarly research or publishing papers. Or you can get a doctorate in psychology if you want to emphasize in practice. With a master's degree, you can have a career in areas like counseling or working with schools, universities, and colleges. Costs are going to vary by school, but here are some schools and their tuition costs. Some schools include a range of different internship opportunities, as well as holding different requirements in the area of experience and fieldwork. For the University of Southern California, for a master's in applied psychology, it would be around $27,000 per semester. With a total of 32 units for the whole program, it would be around $59,000. For a doctorate in psychology, it would be around $77,000 per year. For San Diego State University, a doctorate in clinical psychology will be around $9,000 per year, while for the University of Denver, a master's in sports psychology would be around $55,000 per year. So how to best prepare for your career as a sports psychologist? The application requirements are similar for a lot of these schools, but each school does have a different process and set of recommendations for future students. All schools require a bachelor's/undergraduate degree, although it isn't necessarily required that it's in psychology. It is recommended to have a GPA of about 3.0 to be in good standing for entering graduate schools. All schools also require letters of recommendations. Usually about 2 to 3 are requested. Some recommended courses to take as an undergraduate student should be courses like anatomy, physiology, kinesiology, social psychology, and testing and measurement, to name a few. I think that overall, being familiar with sports in a coach or athletic setting would be a great idea to have experience in, since as a sports psychologist, you're using different professional techniques and personal advice to improve performance or to address psychological needs or issues. Many states require that before you start practicing, you have to undergo a psychologist internship where you are supervised for 1 to 2 years of supervised practice, where you are working directly with the patients and slowly becoming more and more independent with your practice. In order to practice clinical psychology, you need to be licensed, which some schools like CSU offer for graduating doctoral students. Employers may not always require an American Board of Sports Psychology or an ABSP certificate, but it can show your ethics since it's a very hands-on process of going through different training programs, showing your practicum in sports psychology, and ultimately having a final project in the form of a written and oral discussion. The ABSP also offers internships in New York City, as well as remote/hybrid opportunities, where students are able to learn about how to present their evidence-based findings in professional conventions or conferences. Another type of certification that you can get as a sports psychologist is the Association of Applied Sports Psychology, or the AASP certificate. The requirements for this certificate include having a master's or doctorate degree related to sports psychology or psychology, having 400 hours of mentorship along with signed forms from your mentors, as well as passing an exam after your application is approved. And here is a video of Bill Beswick, a famous sports psychologist, and his advice on what makes a good coach.
I tend to ask athletes 3 questions when they get dropped from the team. You've got to bounce back. So a lot of great human qualities which will help them throughout life are embedded in the learning of sport. Coaching and psychology are 2 of the things you can never master. You can never master them. Coaching evolves all the time. And psychology is so deep, so wide, that I feel as though I've only touched the surface. And there's so much more, which is why at my age I'm still working, because I'm actually interested in what I'm finding out.
How would you describe?
So, in terms of salary, the numbers can vary on a range from about 55,000 to 85,000, depending on education, how much time you have invested within this field, and your skill level. In some cases, even, the pay can reach past about $100,000. Since sports psychologists require a doctorate level of training, sometimes a master's, it could take years to specialize in working with athletes. The bare minimum will not cut it, due to the fact that there are additional steps that need to be taken in terms of schooling so that you as a psychologist can not only set yourself up for success, but be of the utmost help to your patients.
So, some skills to work towards as a sports psychologist. For sports psychologists, professionals are required to have services for clinical issues experienced by student athletes, such as substance abuse, eating disorders, family crisis, transitioning in and out of colleges, academics, burnout, conflicts, social challenges, personal stress, and among other things. They also need to have the ability to work with various sport coaches, sport performance professionals, and athletic trainers, while also being able to stabilize patients in the middle of crisis, be culturally aware of how to cater to their clients with different demographics, clinically assess appropriate levels of care, and know how to establish protocols and to solve for problem solving. Sports psychologists work with athletes or sport teams. Some skill highlights would be in areas like having good analytical skills, assessment skills, and having patience. They need to be able to properly observe athletes in order to see where issues lie in their performance or in their environment and how to come to the best solution. Having analytical skills when it comes to their patients is one thing, but having the same eye for clinical research and knowing how to apply that information to your solutions is another. Ultimately, having a good foundation of assessment tools is a great way to work towards, since you have a good understanding of knowing what techniques to apply and when you should apply those techniques. Another area of skill would be having patience or empathy for your clients. As a sports psychologist, the solutions aren't always going to be a single simple process, and it can take some time to have positive influence in athletes' performance. Not everyone is going to have the same level of responses, and everyone is going to have a different journey. And that concludes our presentation, and here are our references.